Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the second part of my Vampire Month series on this channel, a series that I am doing in order to celebrate Spooky Month. Last week's video was on Morbius, and today's video is all about an old TV series from the 2000s, Young Dracula. Without further ado, on with the video. Young Dracula is a series that I have mentioned several times on my channel before, and I have been wanting to make a video about it for a while. The show ran on CBBC from 2006 to 2014, and was loosely based on a book series by Michael Lawrence. I haven't read the book, so I'm just going to focus on the series for this video. The Young Dracula series centered around Vladimir Dracula, who was around 13 at the beginning of the series, and his family, which included his father the Count, older sister Ingrid, hellhound Zoltan, manservant Renfield, and more often than not absent mother Magda. This video is going to detail how the quality/style of the show progressed as it went along, and describe my thoughts about it. I will admit that I really liked this show as a little kid, at least to begin with, and watched it all the way through, even when it was going downhill in my opinion. Before going through my analysis, I feel like I need to explain some relevant lore. Vampires in this universe can procreate, and their offspring don't become full vampires until their 16th birthday, when they merge with their reflection in the blood mirror. Vampires who are turned later in life are referred to as half-fangs by vampire-born vampires. Vlad is also a massive wuss, but at the same time is later appointed as the chosen one for vampires. Think literal opposite of the meaning of it in Buffy, so he's consistently a disappointment to his father, despite being the favourite. I will now give a brief summary of each season of the show, and relay my thoughts and interpretations before giving my over-analysis of the show. During Season 1, Vlad moves to a castle in Wales from Transylvania, due to the Count biting too many people. The Count and Ingrid find this to be a rather tasteless necessity, but Vlad sees it as an opportunity to live the life he wants to lead, a normal, human life. The two Dracula children enroll in school, and Vlad befriends the Branners, namely my favourite character Robin, a nerd who loves vampires, and his little sister Chloe. In this season, the main villains for the first two seasons are introduced: Eric, the woodworks teacher and a descendant of Van Helsing, and his son, Jono. Their escapades and misadventures are played more for laughs in this season, as the children desperately try to protect the Count, who is naive to modern ways of living, from being killed. In Season 2, the show remains as kind of silly but has a few darker themes. I'll get into this in more detail later. Vlad's American relatives visit, Ingrid gets her fangs, and Vlad's cousin, who appeared in the earlier episode, assassinates the Grand High Vampire before being killed with his crown, due to being unworthy at the end of the season. The season ends with the vampires being exposed, Vlad having prophetic nightmares of being the chosen one, and a massive war between those who are referred to as breathers and the vampires. Vlad looks like he is mortally wounded. Ingrid takes his place and refuses to help. From Season 3 onwards, the setting is moved to Liverpool, and Renfield has a newer, cleaner look. Vlad and the Count escaped and have needed to rescue a sickly Ingrid as she was attacked and exposed to sunlight. A new character called Erin is introduced, who wants to slay the Draculas as her brother was turned into a vampire by Ingrid. She ends up having feelings for Vlad and vice versa. This causes a whole mess later on. Vlad also gets a vampiric half-fang tutor named Bertrand, who is at first very dodgy and a traitor, but he agrees to help defeat an ancient vampire who is the main villain at the end of the series. Vlad also gets his fangs after dilly-dallying about, and causing a whole situation with an evil reflection of his. Eric also dies off screen after a memory hex placed on the breathers during the fight at the end of Season 2 causes him to be knocked out after being confronted by vampires. This is a major source of conflict between Vlad, Jono, and Jono's mum. In Season 4, we get introduced to the concept of shapeshifters, and a shapeshifter takes the shape of Bertrand. This causes more conflict as more and more characters which will be introduced and then die appear on screen. Vlad has to turn Erin into a vampire to save her life, which is the last thing she ever wanted, and she now hates Vlad. After Vlad gets pissed off with all the mess from Erin and shapeshifters and politics and vampire breather wars, he stakes the real Bertrand in a fit of rage. I remember this completely shocking me as a kid when this aired. It really came out of nowhere and felt really uncharacteristic for Vlad, even if he was already under a lot of stress and Bertrand had been dodgy before. Long story short, the plot goes completely out the window as Erin tries to assassinate Vlad, fails, and then runs away with her new emo boyfriend Malik, Vlad's cousin, before being killed off screen. As you can probably tell, the show was already going to the dogs at this point, but this is when it really goes off the rails completely. I'm so glad they ended it after this next season. I wouldn't want even more trash. Now, before conducting research for this video, I wasn't even sure if I'd actually watched Season 5 of this show. I genuinely remembered nothing apart from the Shadow Warriors. In this season, Ingrid becomes Minister of Catering in the Vampire High Council, and a family secret is exposed. Vlad actually has a human mother, and is not Magda's son. While this would explain why he is such a massive coward when it comes to feeding off humans, I feel like this was just added for shock value. On his 18th birthday, Vlad is given the choice to step into the sunlight at dawn and become human, which has been his greatest wish since the beginning of the series. However, he decides against this and gains his full powers, becoming the Chosen One. All in all, I think that this show fell into the same let's be gritty trap that a lot of tween shows fell into, namely Wolfblood. I really think that the show was much better before its revival with Season 3 in 2011, and its peak was Season 1. At the beginning, the show tackled important topics while not taking itself too seriously. Vlad mentioned having a pet python called Monty for crying out loud. I enjoyed the show as a young child because of the dark aesthetic and situations that Vlad and his friends got into while trying not to be discovered, as well as dealing with normal domestic issues like having separated parents. It had the tried and true trope of the kids being the ones sorting out the issues, while the adults ran around like bumbling idiots, although they did cause the issue to begin with a lot of the time. As I stated earlier, Robin was also my favourite character when I watched the show. He and his family served as comedic relief, and Robin was a great foil for Vlad, despite being his best friend. While Vlad just wanted to be able to live a normal life, Robin really wanted to be a vampire, and could not fathom why Vlad doesn't enjoy life as one. He also provided amazing lines like this one.
Checkmate! Who's the loser? Who's the loser? Go loser, go loser, go loser.
The writers made a serious mistake in trying to keep the show exciting with overdramatic plot lines later on, which I've always felt didn't suit the show, especially as they couldn't make it as dark as something like Dracula. The beginning and end of the series just feel like completely different shows. Shows like this often get stuck in this weird cringy limbo, where it's sort of edgy and has some blood, but it can never be true vampire horror because it's aimed at children. This is why the style of Season 1 and Season 2 to an extent was much better suited to the show in my opinion. I specifically remember thinking, this isn't young Dracula, when I realised that the Branners wouldn't be making a return to the show. The part of the show that I liked, while being horror fantasy based, did have some good overall messages for its target demographic. Vlad's fear of becoming a full vampire as a young boy, and reacting badly to his father's insistence on him being his heir, and then heir to vampires everywhere, could be interpreted as a child's fear of puberty and growing up, and not having to live up to adults' expectations. The show really did get a bit dark with this though. Aside from the whole mess with Boris, Vlad's reaction to succeeding with hypnosis, his first vampiric power, is very sad.
You do realise what this means?
I'm not gonna make it as a ventriloquist.
No. I'm gonna grow up to be a vampire, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm gonna watch all my friends grow old and die. And I'll still be here, flapping around in this gloomy old castle.
I mean, can you blame him for being scared? Look at what happened to Boris. He was initially a dweeby scaredy cat like Vlad, and then became a monster, even in the eyes of the rest of the family. Aside from Mona the vampire, which I'm not sure counts as she wasn't a real vampire, I remember this being the first bit of media I saw that really ignited my love of vampires. It was just so cool to me. Well, that's all for this video. Be sure to follow me on social media as they are all linked in the description box below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.
Spooky for you.